All right. I think we might as well kick this webinar off. Hello and welcome to everyone that's joining in today. This is the 5th episode of the Brevity Technical Webinar. And today I'm actually joined by Sia. He's one of our senior engineers and a racking specialist. And today we're going to talk about the updates to the steel storage racking standard AS 4084, which was released earlier this year, and discuss what that means for racking suppliers, designers, and engineers. So let's kick into this. If it's the first time you're joining, this may be new to you, but we've done it in the past using Slido. This is how we get some interactiveness happening. So if you can, just get out your phone and take a picture of that QR code. And in a second, we are just going to run a couple quick polls to get an idea of the audience that's joining in today, so we can try and tailor this presentation to suit the audience. And we will be using Slido at the end of the presentation for the Q&A session. So yeah, if you're interested in posting a question, you can do it on the Slido at any time during the presentation, and we will be able to address it at the end. So hopefully people have been able to scan the QR code, and on your phone, the first poll should pop up, which is which part of the industry or profession are you from? So looks like at least one person has already clicked on the racking supplier manufacturer. We've got some engineers joining, some designers. This is quite good intel. Looks like the large bulk of the people joining today are from the racking supplier manufacturer. Because you can select more than one, the percentages don't quite add up. We'll just wait another 5 seconds or so for that. But it seems very clear that we've got racking suppliers and engineers. So this will be great. Sia and I have prepared this, hoping that was the case. And there we go. We've got a building asset owner that's joined in. So welcome, everyone. And we've got a second poll that's popped up now. So just asking a sort of yes, no, or in the middle. How aware are you of the changes to the racking standard? I'm expecting there will be people that may have heard this standard came out, but they don't know anything about it. There we go. There are some no's. Looks like there's a bit of everything happening here. Awesome. Okay, so we've sort of got the full spectrum of audience members here. Well, let's kick off at the sort of the start here. So talk about the regulatory requirements for racking. And this is very similar for Australia and New Zealand, where there are actually no specific requirements in the New Zealand Building Code or the Australian National Construction Code for racking design, which some of you may find that quite surprising when you take it back to sort of the high regulatory level. However, the larger storage racking structures are generally regulated at council level throughout the regulatory frameworks they have. And it is often requested that structures obtain, a PS1 engineering certification, or if it's in Australia, you've got your Form 15s in Queensland and the Reg 126 certificates in Victoria. There's the deemed to satisfy verification method for racking, where racking can be designed to the AS/NZS 1170, which is the structural actions used for engineering design of basically any engineered system structure, and also to the AS/NZS 4600 standard for cold form steel structures. And then there is this additional standard, the Australian AS 4084 for steel storage racking. And that is the most up-to-date and practical sort of industry-best application of both the 1170 and 4600 for racking. And we definitely see as engineers that this currently provides the best means to prove design compliance for racking structures. So let's jump into that AS 4084 a bit here. So about 11 years ago was the 2012 version of the standard. And that really did govern the steel storage racking systems. And as a point there, it was a single document. However, in the last 11 years, there have been advancements in the industry, and the ever-evolving need for safety and efficiency has led to the introduction of a newer standard. So the 2023 version, released earlier this year, is actually split into a part 1 and a part 2, where part 1 is focuses on the design of the racking structures, and that has the load capacities, etc. And part 2, on the other hand, that provides the guidelines for the operation and regular maintenance to ensure safety and efficiency over time. So the photo there just shows the latest 2023 part 1 and part 2 standards. And what does this mean for existing racking, you might be thinking? So existing racking that was designed prior to 2012, the original version, that should actually satisfy the current requirements of the latest standard 2023. When we have existing racking that was designed in the last 11 years, well, no action is required there from a regulatory level. And the third option we've added to this slide is for existing racking that has undergone some form of substitution. Maybe it's a alternative product, a different, the beam or column or base plate's been updated, or if the geometry, another level's been added, if that's been modified, or surprisingly, if the actual racking structure has been moved from one site to another. Well, going from this, that racking should actually satisfy the current 2023 requirements. So if you have any questions on that, you can use the Q&A in the Slido app there. And let's jump on to the next slide, which I'll hand over to Sia to go through this one.
Thank you, Jai, and hi, everyone. The new standard has resulted in changes to various design parameters. Let's discuss some of the key ones here. The first one is ductility. And in the absence of any test data, the racking now can be designed for ductility of 1.5, which previously was 1 or 1.25 for both direction, cross and diagonal directions. But the ductility factor may be increased by undertaking special studies, which is accordance to cold form code 4600. And the other part is the structural performance factor. Used to we use that performance factor from 1170.5, which the value could be less than 1, but no, the new standard requires you to use 1 as for the SP factor. We cannot use less than 1 anymore. And the other main change is when we calculating the seismic mass for calculating the seismic coefficient. There is an updated formula on that, which is the main one is the rigid mass factor, which previously we were using 0.67, which was the best practice from the brand's guideline, but no, there is a range of 0.7 to 1, and that's depend to the product is going to be stored on the rack. And the last item in this slide is about the deflection limit, which is it was 2.5% in the previous code, but no, the minimum separation distance between the rack and the building structure, which includes attached permanent components or elements, shall be greater than 5% of the height of the rack, then plus the allowance for any drift deflection of the adjacent building structure. It means it's because it's the pallet tracking structure is flexible structure, and it doesn't have any kind of just compared to the building, doesn't have any door or window or ceiling or any another like non-structural elements. They allow it to deflect further, kind of twice in this one. And the next slide is just as a reminder, because this is one of the things we see in the site and they request us a lot. And that's just for information, which was, this one was covered in even in that older version of the code, which a minimum of 2 anchors per base plate shall be used for industrial top of the rack. I mean, when we say industrial, it means when the forklift or any mechanical equipment is used to kind of store the pallets. And also the design action in the floor fixing shall be calculated for the worst case action combination at the ultimate limit state. And that should be about like 5 kilonewton in tension and 8 kilonewton in shear separately. And this is just to make sure that they kind of maintain the stability against the overturning. And also we need to be reminded that the supporting concrete slab shall have sufficient strength to withstand the design forces like uplift, punching shear, and soil bearing. And another kind of just as a reminder is just for hand-loaded shelving under 3 meter, we might be use 1 anchor, and that's depend to how much load we are going to store on the pallet rack. That's this slide. I give it back to Joy.
Thanks, Zia. There's another 2 quick things to cover in this presentation. So safe working load signage, the SWLs. This is something that they've just really reinforced in the 2023 version, that the signage shall at all times reflect the current configurations. So I'm sure this is something that the racking suppliers listening in today are well aware of. And the signage there shall be updated following any modifications. And this includes changes to the weight or size of the goods, to any racking specifications, also the type of goods. If it's been designed for example, liquid, it should say that. And there's also if it's changing the method of handling. So if it's a smaller sort of hand method versus the mechanical forklift, it does, the signage does encapsulate that information now. There's also an interesting point there that a competent person shall be consulted prior to modifications. And the last point we want to discuss for this webinar is just around the requirements for annual audits. And this falls into part 2 of that new standard. So inspections to racking, it's required every 12 months. And this is predominantly to cover the maintenance and pick up any safety factors of that racking. And it's quite descriptive in there for all the things to look out for, including damage reporting. And so the 2023 version is the same as that. There's nothing that's been sort of taken away. There's only points that have been added. And the main 2 that we sort of that jumped out to us were that the annual audit shall be completed by a competent person and also from an external provider. So we've had a few clients contact us regarding that last point there. And that's actually it now. We're going to jump into some key takeaways before the Q&A session. So the latest version of AS 4084, it does include changes that racking suppliers, designers, and engineers need to be aware of. We spoke about how this affects existing racking. So we covered that existing racking prior to 2012 needs to meet the current 23 requirements. Existing racking designed in the last 11 years, no regulatory changes are required to that unless modifications are to be made, which is covered in this third point. Any substitutions, modifications, or moving from one site to another shall meet the latest 2023 standard. Another point that Sia discussed was more for the engineering audience out there, that the standard does include numerous updates to parameters such as the ductility, the structural performance factor, some of the seismic mass, particularly the coefficients in there, and the deflection limit being increased to 5%. In our opinion, when you combine sort of all of those engineering factors together, sort of some make the racks more conservative, some maybe less. When you combine them together, in our opinion, it results in minor increases to the overall design loads of racking structures designed to the 2023 standard. We also briefly touched on the safe working load signage and how that needs to be updated to reflect whatever the current configuration is, and the annual audit requirements. Just touching on that, they need to be completed by a competent person from an external provider. And you can't have a webinar without a little plug there. So Team Brevity, racking is something that we pride ourselves on, and we are here to help with any types of questions. So jump on the phone to us or send us an email, and our delivery team or operations team will be more than happy to get in touch. Let's jump into the Q&A. So if you have any questions, this is when you use the Slido QR code there. And it looks like people have already put in some questions there. I need to make sure I can see them all. So I can see 4 on the screen at the moment. And also, just as we sort of look at these, this presentation, by the way, is being recorded. We won't, you can't see any of the attendee confidential information, but we use that so we can then put this information, the recording, on our website. So let's start with, and by the way, if you see there's a question there that is already similar to the one that you're posting, you can just sort of give it a thumbs up and it'll move it to the top. The first one there, Sia, is with racking inspections, does this mean that we as racking suppliers, installers, are no longer able to do these?
I think now if someone, the competent person is someone which is familiar with the rack, which means the supplier and installer, they can do the annual audit or just annual audit, not the inspection after the installation of the rack, but the annual audit, yeah, no, they can do that. Can be engineer, supplier, or installer, but not the building owner, not the asset owner.
All right. The next question there is, does the new standard change the design life of racks?
No,
so you go for it, Sia.
Yep. At the moment, it says if the rack is freestanding, the design life is 25 years. But if you're attaching the rack to the building, then that increased to 50 years. But I don't know. I heard that's is going to change this year or next year. Everything just to be designed for 50 years. But at the moment, if it's freestanding, it's 25 years. If you're attaching it to any adjacent primary building, need to be 50 years.
Cool. I will just tick these ones off there as we go, and we'll try and include a summary for these as well. So we'll tick off that second one now. Is racking a structure? I can do that one, Sia. If feel free to jump in. This is definitely a grey area, in my opinion, anyway. So as we discussed in that one of those first slides, I'll talk about the consent in the next question actually. But is racking a structure? It's a grey space. So councils are obviously asking for PS1s for it. In our opinion, racking can definitely fall into the structure because it is similar to what Sia was just talking about. It is quite a permanent thing within the overall building, and yeah, so it's definitely a grey space. But in the way I see it is racking normally is seen as a structure. What about that first one? What about consent? Seems council often just make up what they want as it suits. So, well, I'd definitely, with the queries that come our way, I'd definitely agree with that. So, there's nothing in the building code for the racking compliance, but councils definitely have that ability in their regulatory level to ask for PS1s as they deem necessary. And so PS1s are becoming quite common for racking structures, particularly the industrial, over 3 meter high type structures. But I don't really know what else to say about the council often make up what they want as it suits. It's definitely something we as engineers do notice. It depends what council you're talking to throughout the country. That's for New Zealand anyway. So that's a great question. C1, C2. So how do anchors, it's moving around. How do we'll do the, we'll take it from the top there. What is the racking was used to make a mezzanine floor? Is consent needed? So what if the racking was used to make a mezzanine floor? So we get a fair bit of that come our way, right?
Yeah, I think, because the mezzanine floor specifically when using, the people is going to walk on top of that. That's something is covered in the new code as well. And yeah, that's need building consent.
Yeah, it would definitely fall into that structure part of the building when the rack is part of a mezzanine floor. Great questions coming through here. We're definitely going over time here, but we're happy to keep going if the questions keep on flowing in. How do anchors rate that were installed prior to the C1, C2 rated products? Prior to when they were available?
I mean, if that's it's installed, we don't need to do anything. But if there is any change, as you mentioned, beam, load, anything, then it means the rack need to be assessed. And for the anchor, if we know the embedment depths, the diameter, the brand, then we can back calculate and see how much the capacity is reduced. And just something else we add, in New Zealand, we cannot use C1 rated, probably only a small piece in up north, but most of the area is C2 rated anchor.
Awesome, good answer there, Sia. I'll tick that one off. Next one here. Sorry, I'm not that technical. In your view, is the 2023 standard more forgiving than the old standard? So you go for it, Sia.
It's kind of balanced in some location. Yeah, I mean, as a structural point of view, the loads kind of reduced, but in some other area the loads increase. But but in general and at the combination, it's kind of minor increased. Like if I want to give a number, is like, I don't know, 15 to 20% worst case scenario increase in the loads, specifically the seismic load.
Yeah. What about the next one there, Sia? Are you able to give some thoughts on the load stickers?
The part 2, which is talking about the operation and maintenance, they are strictly talking about the signage for whole system. I haven't seen any place they're talking you need that sticker for each beam. It's good to have it, but probably it's not something's compulsory. But that signage at end of each rack that's need to be there and need to be represent what is the racking built up, the levels, the weight, and everything.
Yeah, well answered there. When is the 2023 standard in action? Oh, great question. We didn't actually cover that off. Do you know off the top of your head, Sia, when that was released and when it comes into effect?
It was released about, I think, 3-4 months ago, but yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure.
So similar related questions there.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we will check on that one and
And
post that
come
on
back.
the Some good questions. I'll tick off both of those. And maybe the last question here. Oh, they still come in. Would manufacturers, building owners have to book in a routine racking inspection every year? And does it have to be an engineer?
I think the answer is yes, but it can be engineer or can be the racking supplier, the installer of that rack. It's better to be one of these two.
Because we did touch on the presentation that it
Yes.
needs to be a competent person and an external provider. What about the A-frame question there, Sia? Is that one you want to tackle?
That standard is specifically for pallet racking, and the A-frame, if you want to refer to a standard, that doesn't come under that standard. But still, because we don't have any standard for the A-frame, we kind of refer to that. It's not probably compulsory, but it's good to have some stickers just for safety point of view.
Great. Well, there were definitely some good questions that came in. So we love seeing what the audience has to say there. That basically wraps up the fifth webinar. The questions still keep coming in, so you're welcome to keep posting the questions, by the way, and we will answer all of these on the LinkedIn page. So just as a final point here before we wrap it up is if anyone has any topics that you'd be interested in us presenting on in our future webinars, do just flick us a email or give us a phone call or send us a message on LinkedIn, and we will add that to the agenda. Considering it is, should we answer one last question, Sarah?
Yeah, the cantilever is not included in this standard. We have to refer to European standard for that.
Yeah, but the AS 4084 is definitely considered the best practice for a lot of the racking types, even though it predominantly mentions the pallet racking there.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, thank you for joining us, and we hope you dial in for the next webinar.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.